Hello friends and welcome back. My name is Mel and this is going to be my most disappointing and most surprising books of 2023. In 2023, I read a lot of books. I think I read like 160 books, and so bound to have some that I was really looking forward to that unfortunately disappointed me, and some that just completely surprised me and I never would have expected to love as much as I did. These are obviously not the worst books of the year or the best books of the year, but ones that just I was looking forward to so much and they didn't live up to the hype, or ones that I did never expected to love and I had a great time with. So I do have 5 of each to talk to you guys about. We're going to start with the most disappointing. We're just going to get the bad out of the way and finish strong with the most surprising. Unfortunately, the most disappointing books were a lot of new releases, things that I was really looking forward to and enjoyed previous books by this author or previous books in the series, but they just didn't quite hit the same way. The first one that I have to talk to you guys about is The Only One Left by Riley Sager. I tend to really like Riley Sager's books. Unfortunately, there have been some in the recent past that I haven't been loving, but I really liked The Last Time I Lied. I really enjoyed Lock Every Door. I loved Home Before Dark, but this one I was hopeful for it, but it was a little too gothic, a little too slow, and the ending we were good. We had set up this really good mystery twist. I thought it was extremely well done, even though I was a little bit bored throughout it, but then he just kept throwing in twist after twist after twist after twist, and the logic went in the toilet. I was like, why did we have to continue on? Why did those last 50 pages need to be there? Because you had a solid book there before, and then we just kind of ruined it with continuing to throw in all of these shocking twists, because I didn't need to be shocked. Like, I was already good. But I'm just really not the type of person that loves a shock for shock's sake. I want it to make sense in the context of the story and not just be thrown in there to try to take me by surprise, because then I just get annoyed. And that's kind of what happened here. Is I was a little bored throughout most of the book, then I was annoyed, and so it just ended up not being a good time for me, which I'm really sad by, because this is like the third one in a row that I haven't really loved from Riley Sager. And so even though he's still an auto-buy author, he's still one that I'm going to read every book from, I'm getting less and less excited for his new releases because I just haven't been loving these most recent ones. So I'm hopeful for the one in 2024. I'm still gonna read it, but I'm like, I'm a little nervous. Then we have one that I wanted to love. Like, when I read the first book in this series, I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 4-star or high 3-star, I can't remember, but I had a really good time with it, and it was unlike anything that I had read before. Dark academia, but make it super fantasy, and there was like demons, and it was just a good time, and I really enjoyed it. And that was Ninth House, but the sequel, Hellbent, that we have been waiting so long for, unfortunately did disappoint me. I gave this one a 2-star, and honestly, I don't really remember a whole lot about it. I probably will continue on in the series because I did enjoy Ninth House. I did enjoy what it did, but this book was so far removed from the style of Ninth House that it lost me. I think from what I remember, not only was I pretty bored in the first half, there was a lot going on, but none of it was overly interesting and none of it seemed to be pushing the plot forward. And then we got to the point where we were having things going on and the plot was moving forward, and it just kind of went in a completely opposite direction of Ninth House. The tone was really different, and I did not love that. It went more in like a demons underworld kind of thing rather than the dark academia Yale Ninth House vibes, and I liked the murder mystery. I liked the dark academia, even though I'm not really a dark academia girl. I liked that about Ninth House, and I hated to see us just completely go away from that, because I still love a demons, I love an underworld setting, but I didn't love the way that it was done in here. So unfortunately, this one was a disappointment for me. Despite having highly anticipated it for several years, I just didn't love it. I still love Darlington. I think that he's a great character, but the way that he was done in here was just not my favorite. So I probably will continue on into the 3rd book in the series whenever we get it, because I think this was supposed to be a 5-book series and now it's a 3-book series. So I will probably finish it out, but man, this just did not go over the way that I was expecting it to. Then we have What Kind of Mother by Clay McLeod Chapman. Ghost Eaters was on my favorite books of the year list, and so I was so highly anticipating this. All of the early reviews for it were like, what the crap, what the crap, what the crap, what the crabs, and I was so excited for the what the crap moment that I was gonna have, but the what the crap moment that I had was more because it didn't make sense, not because it was mind-blowing and weird and twisty. The beginning of this book I really liked. I thought that it was kind of weird, kind of twisty, a little little trippy and I was curious to see what was going on. Then we got more into this like domestic motherhood relationship style of thing, and I didn't connect with that. I understand what he was trying to do, but I didn't connect with it at all. I got really bored. Then it just lost its logic and it went way too weird in a way that wasn't really set up in the context of the story, and so it lost me. I ended up giving this one, I think, a 2-star as well, which made me so sad because I was so looking forward to this, but it didn't work for me. I'm still gonna try more from Clay McCoy Chapman in the future. I also did not love the cult one, not the cult one, the devil whatever one. I didn't love that one either, but Ghost Eaters was so good. So I keep hoping that I will find another book by him that I love. I think he does what he's setting out to do really, really well, but unfortunately it didn't click with me in this one. Then we have The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi by S.A. Chakraborty. I was so sad that I did not like this book. I wanted to love it. I love the City of Brass series, the Daevabad trilogy. I think that it is absolutely incredible. The Adventures of Amina Al-Sarafi is set kind of in the same world as Daevabad, although you don't need to read one to read the other, but it does have some crossover like creatures in it. But this book was just dull. It did not have the amazing world that City of Brass had. I didn't connect with Amina at all. The seafaring was just not really a good time. We tried to move from like thing to thing to thing without really setting all of this stuff up, and I didn't love it, and I wanted to so much. I don't know if it was a case of the setting and the story or what, because I still think that S.A. Chakraborty is a really good writer, but this is just proves that just because a writer writes one thing that I really love doesn't mean that I'm going to love everything that they write, and it is truly based on the characters in the story and the world individually in each book. But I wanted to love this. It was a little too cozy, I think, for me too. I wasn't expecting it to be cozy because City of Brass definitely isn't. It's a revolution and a rebellion and talking about a suppressed people, but Amina Al-Sarafi was more of a cozy adventure type story, which is just not really my thing, so it did disappoint me. Not that it was inherently a bad book, but it didn't work for me at all. And last but not least, we have The Witch Collector by Carissa Weeks. I was so excited for this book. There are tons of special editions coming out. I was like, yes, I'm gonna get my hands on a new favorite fantasy romance. It was supposed to be enemies to lovers, and no, it's not. I think that was my biggest issue with this book. Well, no, my biggest issue with this book was the main character. She was so whiny and so it's my way or the highway, and I'm not going to listen to anything anyone else has to say. I'm not going to ask any questions because I don't want to know. It's my way. And that was just bratty to me. She was very bratty in my opinion and very whiny. And then when she finally did ask questions and finally did get answers, she was like, oh, well, I guess that makes sense. And then all of these beliefs that she was so die for didn't matter anymore. And she would just immediately flip a switch the second she got a counter argument. And I'm like, okay, either die on that hill or ask questions and be willing to learn. You can't do both. And she just completely counteracted both of them. Combine that with the fact that I don't really feel like the main couple had any chemistry at all. I felt like he was kind of just your average male character that was just a stick there to help move the plot along. It wasn't really enemies to lovers, especially the second that she understood what was going on. He was no longer her enemy, and I was like, not my favorite. Not slow burn enough for me. The world was interesting, but that just wasn't enough to get me past her. And so I was so disappointed because I wanted to love this book. I was so convinced that I was going to love this book. Like, I would have bought the special editions without having read it. I was that convinced, but it did not work for me at all. However, with that being said, just like Hellbent, I would be persuaded to try the sequels if someone that I trust said that she really had a lot of character growth or the plot really developed in the second book. Something like that, I could be persuaded to continue on in the series, but as of right now, I don't plan to continue. Okay, so now that we've gotten the bad out of the way, let's talk about the books that surprised me the most this year, the ones that I wasn't expecting to love and really, really enjoyed. The first one that I want to talk about is the only one that I don't own, and that is Killers of a Certain Age by Deanna Raybourn. This book was one of the first books that I read in 2023. It was actually on Chandler Ainsley's Best of the Year, so it was one of the ones that I read for the Booktuber's Favorite video, and I was so shocked by how much fun I had with this book. It is an older set of friends. They were previous obviously like assassins and spies, and now they're on the run for their life. And it was just snarky and exciting and fast paced. I just had fun with it. I didn't think too hard about it. I just enjoyed the ride, and I was so surprised by how much that I enjoyed that. And I'm excited to see if there's anything more coming out from Deanna Raybourn in the future. I have read A Curious Beginning. I didn't love that, but I also don't really love that historical setting. Killers of a Certain Age is set in a more modern setting. It flips back and forth between timelines, but still not quite as historical as A Curious Beginning is, but I would be interested to continue on in that series as well. So then we have The Queen of Blood by Sarah Beth Durst. This was a contender for Backlist Book Club, but then when it wasn't picked, I read this for the publisher battle for Harper Voyager and was really surprised by how much I enjoyed this. It's been on my radar for a while, but there was something about it that just really wasn't calling to me. Even though I had heard it was good, there were also some friends of mine that I trusted that said that they found it to be really repetitive and didn't exactly enjoy it. But I was surprised by how much I liked this first book. I thought that the writing was interesting. I loved the world and the spirits and the elemental magic in here. I liked the training setting of it. The ending was not my absolute favorite, but because I enjoyed the book leading up to that, I was still good with it. I have read the second book in the series now, and I need to finish it off. I will say the second book felt a little bit more like more of the same, and it follows a slightly different character in the forefront, so that I didn't love, but this first one was a really good time, and I was surprised by how much I enjoyed it. So I'm looking forward to reading more from Sarah Beth Durst in the future. Then we have one that really surprised me. I was not expecting to enjoy this book as much as I did, because I heard, you know, it was young adult, and I've heard it has a cool magic system, but like it was young adult, and I was like, it can't live up to the hype. That was The Final Strife by Sarah L. Arafi. I didn't expect to love this, but it really, really worked for me. I do think that the magic system was a lot of fun. I think that this is just a fast-paced fantasy book. Does it push any boundaries? No. Does it bring anything super new to the table? Not really, but it's still a lot of fun, and it was a solid 4-star read for me. It's not something that I'm gonna be like shouting from the rooftops about, but I was expecting to give this like a 2-star. And so when I gave it a 4-star, I was like, man, that writing was really compelling. The characters were interesting for me. I liked the relationship between the main character and her love interest, and so I had a really good time with it, and I will definitely be continuing on with this series. Then we have The Collar Bound by Rebecca Zahabi. This is one I was actively avoiding. Honestly, like I had it, I was interested in it, but I was actively avoiding it because it is so short, and I had heard that it kind of just was a bunch of world building and just felt like the plot wasn't really there, and the characters were good but not great, and I was just honestly concerned by how short it was. Most of the time when you have a fantasy book that is 300 pages, you're going to be missing a lot of character development, you're going to be missing some world development, or you're going to be missing some plot. There's just no real way around that. But this one for me actually worked really, really well. It is a lot of setup, it is a lot of world building, but I was super curious about the magic system and the world. It's like a nest, and there are mages, and you can like go into people's minds to do battles, and you can pretty much do anything that you can think up in your mind, and people have like shadow selves. It was just a lot of fun, and I am curious to continue on with the sequel. I have not heard amazing things about the sequel, but this one really, really surprised me when I decided to pick it up, and I ended up giving it 5 stars. And last but not least, we have The Umbral Storm by Alec Hudson. This one I read for the finalist of the SPFBO 8 last year, and really, really was surprised by this. It's super long, and the beginning was a little bit rough. I think that's why it surprised me as much as it did, because the writing took some time to settle in, and I don't necessarily think it's the best written book ever, but it was really compelling in the world and the plot. This is a progression fantasy. You can collect shards, and every time you get a shard, it basically makes you stronger and more likely to have different kinds of abilities. Thought that the abilities in this were really strong. We have like big crabs and giant serpents, and it was just a lot of fun, and I'm so glad that I read it. I'm really hoping that we get the sequel to this pretty soon, because I don't want to forget all of the intricate details, and I want to know more about this world and where these characters are going to go. I thought that they had really interesting relationships. There's a little shadow man. It was just a lot of fun, and I would highly recommend this. I think this was a great introduction to me in the genre. Okay guys, so I think that that is all 10 books that I wanted to talk to you guys about today. The 5 books that didn't really hit like I wanted them to, and the 5 books that really shocked me. Let me know down in the comments what your most surprising and your most disappointing reads of 2023 were. I would really love to know. If you don't really have anything to say and you just want to let me know that you were hanging out, leave me a shocked emoji. As always, links to my Patreon, Instagram, Twitter, and Goodreads are down in the description box below. If you guys enjoyed this video, please give it a big thumbs up and subscribe if you want to, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!